So today we're going to talk about how to add text onto the HTML5 canvas. I have a basic canvas here. I've got a default message appearing and another message about how many pixels wide this message is using the text metrics. So I'm going to get into all that and how that works. I have a basic canvas, same as the first video, and in my load event I can use window on load, I can use document, DOM content loaded, either one's going to work here. Setup, same as before, find the canvas, get the context, set a height and width. This is the number of pixels that I've got, and I know that I will have exactly this number of pixels. Then I'm going to call my function to draw text. I'm going to come back to this right here after we talk about the font families a little bit, but I'm calling draw text once at the beginning. What that is doing, if I comment that out and refresh this, you can see the screen's blank. I'm just putting some default information on the screen when I call this. Then I'm adding the input event onto my text input here. So every time I type something, it's going to grab that information and put it on the screen like this. So it's constantly going to be recalculating the width using the text metrics, and every time I type a character, I'm putting it on there. And I'm also erasing this, but it's interesting the way that you have to erase things on Canvas, so we'll talk about that a little bit. Okay, so we're calling this draw text function. Let's take a look at that. Inside of draw text, I'm setting the font property on the context. So the context is what you use for all of your drawing operations, whether it's rectangles, circles, lines, paths, anything like that. Context is what we use. So CTX, that was my variable from up here, the get context 2D. And I'm going to use that context and I'm going to set the font. This is like the CSS font property. So we can set a style, which can be normal, italic, or bold. We can set a size, and we can use any one of these units. So PX, PT, so pixels, points, centimeters, inches, REMs, EMs, EX, whatever font unit you want, you can use it here. Then, just like the font property in CSS, you can provide a list of potential fonts. So I've got Alert Stencil here. This is a font that I'm bringing in from Google Fonts. I just wanted to show that you could do this. So up in the top, in my CSS, I'm doing an import and I'm bringing in this font family. Now, if you're to take this right here and you put this in your browser, here's the page right here. This is what you get. And it's giving it a name. So normal is the style. We've got a regular weight. And it's saying if you've got it locally installed, it could be under either of these two names. If not, this is the URL that we're downloading. So this is the actual font right here, the WOFF2. This is the font file that we're downloading and using. We need to wait and make sure that this is actually downloaded and used. That's why I was using the load event, because I did want to wait for that font. Now, once you've got it cached, it's there, you're good to go. But that initial load, sometimes it's good to wait. Now this font face, this is something that was added fairly recently in the browsers. IE and MS Edge don't support this yet. The support in the other browsers, it's there, but it's touch and go. I wouldn't recommend using this along with the canvas. I've had very mixed results with it. In the font face, you provide a name, just like you would up here. You're providing a name, and then this is the font file. So right here, inside this CSS file provided by Google Fonts, that URL, that's the one that you would use in here. So two arguments being passed to font face, this and this. Now, you create this object, then you call the load method. The load method will return a promise. So you've got a then and a catch. The then operation, this takes place, this resolves when the actual font has been downloaded. So you have it, and that's what this is right here. This thing being passed in. If you need to use the variable, if you want to use it for anything on your page, you have access to it here. There's only a couple of properties that are supported. There's family and display. So family would tell me this, Alert Stencil. That's what would be written out here in my console. Catch, you can display whatever the error message is. Now, theoretically, we can use this, and then we can use this font, and we can get the font's family property to say, this is what I want to use down here in my font stack. But I find it doesn't work that well. I can't rely on it. So instead of doing this, I will leave this inside my code here, but I'm not actually using this anywhere in the web page. So in here, I'm not using it. I can refresh. There's the font still appearing. So I haven't used this code. What's happening is this import right here has brought it to my web page, and this name I'm able to use. So down inside of here, I've got Alert Stencil. That is the same name from right here. And that's what I'm putting here in my font stack. And you can see I've got a comma after it and then another font face. I could add Helvetica, I could add Arial. So we can add a whole list of fonts the same way you would in CSS. And just like CSS, the browser's going to try to do this one. If it can't, it'll do this, then this, and so on. If I added one here, XYZ, that's not a font that I have or that I know that exists. If I refresh, nothing. So we're good. This font didn't exist, so it came to the next one, and this is what got applied. All right, fill style. Same as with rectangles and circles. This is the color to be used. We've got align text, text baseline, direction, align text. There is a left and a right, but I recommend that you use end and start. Start is the default property that you get. So end and start rely on the direction. Is your text going to be right to left or left to right? So start and end will change depending on the direction. That's why I recommend these. Left and right were the original values. They're there for backward compatibility, but I recommend that you use end or start. Text baseline. This is the line inside of which we start writing at. So I am using alphabetic, which will depend on the character set that we're actually using. And inside of here, it's important to note that the coordinates where I'm writing this are going to be right here at the bottom left-hand corner. Because I'm going left to right, this is going to be the starting point right here. The text is going to be written in this direction across, and the text is above that line for the most part. But you will get hanging characters like the G, J, Y, P, Q. These letters that have that little hanging piece at the bottom of the character, those can drop below that line. So keep that in mind when we delete this. Okay, my message, whatever's written here, I'm grabbing that. I'm measuring old text. This is the text metrics that I was talking about. So in the context, we can say, hey, you know what? Using whatever your fill style is, whatever your font is, no, sorry, not your fill style, your font is set to, whatever this font family is that you're using, whatever font size you're using, I want you to measure how wide some piece of text is. Old text is whatever was written here the last time this function ran. So I have a global variable for old text right up here. And every time I write something, I save it inside of here. That way, the next time I come in, I can delete the old message and write the new one. So we're measuring that old text. I'm measuring this message right here, the one that's 123 pixels wide. The width property is what you get back out of this variable. So we could just say w equals context.measure text, old text dot width. You can combine this into one single line if you want. This is the only property that you're getting out of the metrics. Then I'm calling clear rectangle. And this is the rectangle that I want to delete. So I'm figuring out where this point is. I'm dropping 10 pixels down below that. I'm going the width that was measured by this. And then I'm going -40, which means I'm up to here. So this becomes the rectangle that I'm clearing on my screen. Now we can say 50 and 110. Where I'm writing the text with fill text, 50 and 100. So 50 pixels over, 100 down from the top. That's where I'm starting to write, but my clear rect goes down another 10 pixels just to make sure that I have enough space that I'm deleting everything, even the hanging characters. The -40, again in theory, we should be able to just do 24 pixels, but because I've dropped down another 10, and because there's characters that can stick up a little bit, I'm going beyond that. So this, if this were 40 pixels tall, and I was only deleting 40, and I was going exactly where I've written it. So fill text at 50-100, clear rectangle at 50-100. So starting at this point, I'm going to go as wide as the measured, and then up 40. And that's the size here. So if I run that, when I start to type, you can see the G's are hanging down below here. We want to get rid of those as well. That's why when we clear, we add the extra 110. So we add the extra 10, so we're going to go down, we're going to delete this. But hey, there's still a little bit above that line, so we have to make sure that whatever we're doing here is bigger than this number. If I go down to 30, now I'm bigger. I've dropped down that extra 10 pixels. This goes back up to the top of that 30. There we go. So now we're deleting everything above and below that line. So just something to keep in mind when you're clearing the old text. This is my default message. If text is an empty string, that's this field right here. So if this is an empty string, this is what I'm going to write out. Please give me a message. Fill text, there's the message, and this is the coordinates to write it. I'm saving what I just wrote as my old text, so the next time I can come back and delete it. And I'm just repeating the process right here to write this down below. Now, instead of fill text, there is one other method we can use, and that is not stork text, but stroke text. And when we do that, you can see it doesn't show up well at this size. Yeah, let's do it to the larger one. We'll put this back to fill text. We'll make this one stroke text. And let's bump up the font size a bit to 40 pixels and make sure that we're deleting enough of that space. There we go. Here is the stroke text. Now it's black stroke, a black outline, because we haven't set a stroke style. We've set a fill style for blue, but we need to set a stroke style, and then we can set that to, I don't know, let's say badass. There we go. And there it is. So there's our stroke text. Here's the fill text. And that's pretty much everything there is about text on Canvas. Anything else that you're going to be doing, it's just really arranging things, moving things around on the canvas. So I'll leave that for other videos. I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. I will add to the description the code gist so you have all of this so you can play with it. All the properties are there. You can mess around with it as much as you want. There is a link here to a great Canvas cheat sheet. Take a look at that. You'll get that in the code gist as well. So all the Canvas properties, not just the stuff for text, but everything that I'm going to be doing through the videos and some more. All right. That's it. As always, thanks for watching.